fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck that.
Everybody
Yes.
to
Fuck that. With Ormash and Jihan Sabir, we have the incomparable, the beautiful, the funny Mike Menendez.
Woo.
Welcome, Michael.
I think I am comparable though.
You probably are.
I did a show.
I was trying to be nice.
I did a show. I did a show this weekend in San Diego where I got on the microphone before I even said anything. Some asshole in the back just went, "Jack Black," and I didn't even address it because I was like, "He's right. He's right. No matter how."
Oh my God. Mike is my secret lover. My
That's
secret
nice.
Latin
Well,
lover.
secret lover to her face.
I think lovers should be secret.
They really should.
So the
Ew.
religious police don't throw us in jail.
Dude, one time I was at Orr's house, and this was like a week ago, right? And we were talking about...
Secret lovers?
No, we were just talking about shit. And my mom called, and I was like, oh, I'm here with my partner. And she's like, partner?
She thought she was lesbian.
I was like, not my lover, mother.
I actually had a moment like that with my cousin Helen, who's from Jersey. She finally got like married, like in her late 30s, but at some point, you know, I guess it was her she was in her early 30s. We were at a mall, and I didn't know in Jersey they refer to their friends as girlfriends.
Yeah, they do.
It's like I went to the thing with my girlfriend. I'm a younger kid. I'm like a teenager at the time, and then finally I just went, "Oh, you mean your friend?" Because I thought you had a girl. Okay, and then she goes, "No, just my girlfriend." But I should be gay. It was the weirdest moment that I caused for somebody who was clearly feeling. Yeah, it was someone who was clearly feeling their biological clock go.
Oh my God.
And they were just like, I was like, I caused such a bad moment.
I told my mom, I was like, I would never refer to my lover as my partner.
No.
I'm not gross.
Yeah, and usually lovers are they're not so good partners. And anything else, by the way.
That is why a man has a side lover away from his partner.
Exactly.
And so does a woman nowadays.
Exactly.
Baby,
How do you used to say a secret lover? Concubine?
No,
concubine.
A
Oh my
concubine
God,
is not
yeah.
I don't think that's a secret
I love
lover.
that.
A concubine is
that.
closer to a slave, like a sex
no,
slave.
it's not. No, that's just
thought a
that's
concubine
just
is
where
like-
she goes on things.
No.
You make everything slave, Jihan.
I'm not. Well, I wouldn't go that far either.
Makes
I would not go that far.
slave, okay?
No, I'm kidding.
Take it up with the founding fathers.
No. So explain to me the concubine
Yeah.
concept. I thought a concubine.
Concubine is just, a king or a ruler's side bitches.
Yeah, king's mistress. No, but it's like his
But
main
they're not
mistress.
mistresses. They're just like
Like they
bitches
get-
he fucks.
No,
Are they getting paid?
if the queen gets courtside tickets, the concubine's second, third row, but like on the other side
Yeah,
of the court.
the queen knows they exist. They're not a
Right.
secret.
Right.
It's like it's just like his other bitches.
Are these bitches getting paid?
Yeah.
They get
So
to live
they're
in the
not-
palace.
Then it's not the slave.
No, they probably
they're
live in the
getting paid.
palace.
They're
No,
whores.
they're not getting paid.
They're not slaves. They're whores.
Shut your mouth.
Oh my God.
What's worse?
Slave. Because
Oh.
being a whore, you did it by choice.
Did you though? No one.
I don't know.
Isn't there a lot of
No?
whores who are kind of in it? They're kind of whores and slaves. Like there has to be like some kind of hybrid whore slave, like whore.
Please, can you please stop calling them whores?
Oh, I'm sorry, a hoe.
I don't call them.
A
No,
hoe.
stop. I don't call them whores. I call them parking enforcement officers. Okay. And frankly, you need to cut.
You.
Let me ask you, how do we always, in the first 5 minutes of the Fuck That podcast, or either talk about death, slavery, whores, fucking burying people?
We actually haven't talked about
fighting
whores
them-
yet.
Wait.
Which this is a pleasant surprise to me because we haven't talked about whores, but we have talked about dicks and like breasts before.
You seem like you don't like whores, Jihan.
Excuse
This
me.
is the age of whorism.
Listen, hoes. You guys are okay. I don't even like saying whore because
You've
know,
said it many times.
I know.
so
I
far.
don't like saying whore. I like
Okay.
saying hoe. But
Right.
there's a lot of hoes out here. Now hoes are everywhere. They're not just on the corners.
How many hoes have ruined your life?
They're on
Jihan?
Instagram. What?
How many hoes have ruined your life, Jihan?
No hoes.
No?
No hoes. I don't associate with hoes.
They never ruined a thing.
No, they never ruined my life. Maybe my neighborhood. Dude, one time I was trying to show in Richmond, 23rd Street is like the whole stroll. So I was trying to show someone the whole stroll, right? And so we were going slow, so you could see these bitches in the corner, and they pretend like they waiting for the bus and shit. Like you leave in the morning, they waiting for the bus. You come back at night, they still at the bus stop, right?
Yeah.
You're like, this bitch ain't caught the bus yet? And like we were driving so slow, this bitch thought we were a John, and she tried to
She talking about me?
No, I'm not talking about you, hoe. We're talking about a different hoe.
Oh,
No,
okay.
yeah, no. But she thought we was trying to pick her up. I was like, oh, no, bitch, I don't want you.
You know.
Ugh.
You should get hoes on here that are not hoes anymore for their fuck that moment.
Oh, like a past hoe.
Yeah.
But aren't we all kind of?
16 clowns in a tiny car came into the brothel and they said, we want her. And I was like, fuck that. And now I manage a Target in my hometown.
Damn, son. Well, at least she's managing it. I mean, come on. Target is actually good. Walmart would have been worse. So she really is doing things.
She's doing well.
She's doing well. You're right.
Walmart is for who made poor financial decisions.
You know, I love the hoes who are trying to like better them their lives. You know, they're like, I'm just hoeing to get through college.
Aren't you?
I'm just hoeing to get through college.
Hey, I like it. I like hoes. I commend hoes. I like to hang out with hoes.
Yeah, but those are different kind of hoes.
I don't like hoes.
The hoes you're talking about are hoes who don't get paid. Okay.
I don't like
That's the
hoes.
difference between a hoe and a whore, by the way. A whore gets paid, a hoe doesn't. They can't afford the
So
RE.
he's a hoe too.
Probably.
No, I'm not a hoe.
Most male comedians are hoes.
I'm not a hoe.
that Drake song is him that he said sex so good that she'd get paid for it. That's his really wanting to become from a hoe to a whore.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
Drake.
Well,
he's trying to get
That's the
paid for
Drake
that.
I'm not a hoe. I've indulged.
You're not a hoe.
I haven't. It's like that J. Cole lyric where he says, "You're not a hoe. You just made a hoe decision." I've made some hoe decisions in my life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that.
Like anybody else. But I'm very proud of myself because 2 weeks ago I was hanging out at a bar and this lady was there, and I know all the bartenders and everything like that. And this lady was there, very attractive older lady, and she just started like she was being rude to everybody before I came in there. I could feel like the bar was just at her beck and call because she was gorgeous, but again, rude. I came in, I started making everybody laugh and everything like that, taking attention away from her. She starts getting upset clearly because all the attention is going away. Hoes need attention or they evaporate.
It's true.
And they evaporate.
They like a flower.
Yeah, they shrivel over like a Venus flytrap that starts
flower.
losing their
You're
thorns.
so-
and then,
You're so kind.
yeah, right.
Are you talking about the getting paid horse or the hoe?
I'm talking the hoe. She's a
Oh,
hoe.
she was a hoe.
She was a hoe.
So
Shout out to
you
my
could
hoes.
tell, like,
Just for the money.
yeah, you could tell if
Call
she didn't
it.
get attention, she would just like burst into a bunch of used condoms and fall to the floor.
She does it for Louboutins.
Exactly. So she was there with like this older guy, and then she starts like arguing with me, and he leaves for some reason, and she keeps like asking me these very serious questions to try to like get at me, and I just like kept making up these ridiculous answers, and everyone around us is laughing, and she doesn't understand why they're laughing, and she's getting upset at me. She calls me an asshole. She says I'm obviously crazy. I'm like, maybe. And then all of a sudden she sits right next to me at the bar, and she looks at me like this, like like that, and everyone around is like,
She's gonna murder you.
no, it looked like she wanted to.
You gotta watch out for those.
No, no.
I also want to be funny.
Yeah, exactly. She was.
Was she?
Exactly.
Can I ask you? Was she of the fairer variety?
Was she white?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was white.
You know, I
Um,
saw.
Be careful. Those
I
white
know.
women poison you.
I
White
know.
women
I know.
poison
I know.
you.
But anyway, she was sitting next to me, and then all of a sudden she started putting her foot on my shin and brushing it and everything like that. And everyone around me is going like, "Are you going to?" And I'm like,
No.
I picked up my drink and I went away from her. And she eventually got kicked out of the bar for being too drunk and swinging on another customer.
Swing.
God damn.
Swinging.
Swinging like a-
And you know what? It was my fault because if I would have just taken her out of there, I would have been murdered and no one would have been hit.
Was this
and,
here in Florida?
No, it was here. It was in Los Feliz.
That makes sense.
It was bad, but I was like proud of myself kind of weirdly because I was like, I had integrity in that moment.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah.
I don't know if people know this, but Mike is Cuban, actually.
Yeah.
He's not white.
Nice.
I mean,
Now you want me now? Now you want me?
Yeah.
Now you want me?
Now I'm thinking about it.
he's a white Cuban though.
A white Cuban.
He ain't no African.
My first boyfriend was Colombian. That is
Gross.
It's
Gross.
Ricardo.
It's true. It's true.
Ricardo.
Ricardo.
Other the Latin countries
Ricardo.
fight like they hate each other.
That's really
I
weird.
used to shit on Cubans and
Oh, no.
Argentinians often.
No one,
It's a lot of infighting. What
Cubans,
the fuck is that?
my older Cuban family members, like, they shit on Puerto Ricans a lot, and like my entire life, I swear to God, I was like, we're not Puerto Rican. Like, it's just a similar, you know what I'm saying?
It's so similar.
I was
they're
like,
the same string
if
of
you listen,
islands.
if
Like,
you look
they're
at
so
Pitbull and
close.
if you look at Pitbull and Rosie's brothers, I'm like, they're both annoying. They seem like they come from the same place, but they're not. One's Cuban and one's Puerto Rican.
One's Cuban and Puerto
Cuban
Rican, really?
people
I s-
are dope. I
They're
feel
fun.
Like Cuban people are like, they got that swag.
They're fun. They got swag. The ones that are not so Republican or that. I'm not saying that being a Republican's a bad thing, but I like moderate Cubans.
Maybe
I don't
'cause
like
they're
anyone
cut
that's
off
too.
from,
No,
maybe-
yeah.
You
What?
think it's
We were
because
cut
they
off
don't
for
like
so long.
Mexicans?
What? Mexico's
First
so
of all,
far away
first
from
of all,
Cuba.
no one in the Caribbean likes Mexicans. I love Mexicans.
I think Mexicans
I
are like
love
the
Mexicans.
most creative people
I love
I've
Mexicans.
ever
They really
met.
are.
They're always
They
happy.
can literally look at something and be like, I can make that.
I love
And they'll
Mexicans.
fucking
I don't
make
like.
it.
I'm not a fan of white Mexicans, and there are a lot of European like Mexicans, and I don't get it. I mean, I got along with two of them one
What do you
time,
mean?
one
when you
night
say
after the show.
European Mexicans, explain what you mean by that.
Well, like the thing is, when we think of Mexicans, we think of indigenous Mexicans, like
Right.
like darker skin and everything like that. Look
Right.
kind of native, like Native Americanish,
Mhm.
right? With the beautiful hair that goes down
Dark.
to the ground.
It's dark and
And,
flows.
and it, when the rain.
Man, I love
catches it.
Mexicans. They always make the parties. They make the parties.
She sounds like someone trying to hide the fact that she hates
No,
Mexicans.
no, no.
Man.
Let me tell you
Man, I
something.
like. Man, I love
I
Mexicans.
love
Man.
Mexicans. No, man, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something.
Let me tell you a
I love-
thing or two, even though I know 1,000 things or so about Mexicans.
If I had to take somebody to war, I would take a Mexican. Let me tell you why.
So I
Because
can
first
get
of
him
all,
killed because
so I
I
can
hate
Get
Mexicans.
him killed first. No,
Jesus Christ.
because
She puts them on the front line.
She was on the front line.
there's nothing they can't solve. Every technique.
They are problem
everything,
solvers.
They're problem solvers.
It's
They're
true.
like,
That's what I'm saying.
it's
They're
okay,
creative
it's
as
okay,
shit.
let's have it.
Yeah.
And they're always happy. They're like,
They're super
doesn't
creative.
matter.
They come.
Well, their
they-
country's fucked up. So
I know,
it's
but they
like-
get creative. Like
You get
like,
creative when
you
you're
see
in
all those like
danger.
makeshift trucks that they make
Right.
for businesses. They just
Right, yeah, I know.
they weld bars on the sides
Uh,
and boards and shit.
I know the whole reason I learned how to change a tire was because this Mexican dude did it for me one time, and I felt so bad that I couldn't do it that I learned how to do it right after he did that for me.
Yeah,
But he
that-
just
you
came out-
should feel bad.
just
I
came-
know how to change.
He just came out of nowhere. I just never had to do it.
My
'cause-
dad taught me. I've never had to do it, but I know how to do it.
Yeah, I know. It's just, but I figured it out, and now I've done it like 4 or 5 times because LA
Oh,
is
how
because they keep the
nice.
potholes in LA to keep the tire businesses going up. It's just bad, but
You don't
You-
avoid them. You're terrible.
I don't know how. But they're like on every corner.
I
Sometimes
haven't popped my tire here.
Sometimes
yet.
I'm just on autopilot when I'm driving, and I don't see every like.
You're on autopilot. See, that's
Dude,
weird.
going through LA is like playing a game of like Mario Kart. Like it's like, oh look, banana.
It's true. It
Oh
is
guys,
fucked,
some guy
dude.
just threw a turtle shell at me.
I remember the first time I had the tire, a flat tire. I called my dad,
Yeah.
and I was like, Dad, I got a flat tire. And then he goes, what you do is this. Go to in front of your car,
Mm-hmm.
look at the tire, and do like this in your head, like scratch your head. Come in 5 minutes. I do what he says, and I scratch my head. And in 5 minutes, there's like 4 guys. they're like
All going
fighting
Salina.
about-
I know. I told
Anything
you
for
You
Salina.
could be a Mexican here. I was like,
That's-
you're in LA now,
that's,
dude.
that's the scene from the beginning of Selena with Jennifer Lopez. These 2 guys just
Yeah,
like
the
anything for
four of us.
Salinas, man.
Selena.
They all think she's Israeli Selena.
No, but let me tell you something. Let me tell
I
you
thought she
something
could go out for Latin rolls.
about you said that the Mexican good in solutions and the country's fucked up. When you're in danger, you get creative. Like
It's true.
the Israelis figured out how to stop a missile in midair just because they've been throwing a lot of missiles. So
Right.
you get creative in what's going on in your life.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Well, yeah, especially because the reason that the country's so fucked up, but this is the way it is in many Latin American countries. It's that we think that there's a big gap between the rich and the poor here in this country. It's not it's nothing compared to Latin America. The disparity between the rich and the poor is astronomical.
Especially in Cuba.
Especially in Cuba.
It's communist, you know?
Yeah, it's real communist. And I've heard a lot of Canadian tourists like coming back recently and going, you got to go to Cuba. I'm like, I really don't.
I actually really do want to go to Cuba.
I want to go to Cuba too.
Let's go.
The car, yeah, because
Should we go to Cuba? Go do
they
some
have
comedy?
so many cars from their 50s. You want to know why? You want to know why?
I know exactly why. And
Trade didn't expand past 1955.
I know, and they have to keep those motherfuckers up too.
It's like when you see a girl that's
Rubber
been.
band
It's like when you see one of those girls that's been locked in an attic for like 10 years. She's been kidnapped and she's been in a wine cellar, and then she gets out and she has a Hello Kitty backpack from like 10 years ago. It's like, wow, they don't even make those anymore. That's great.
Like the 80s.
Wow, lucky.
You're describing Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt right now.
That's what
you're describing.
That's a Hello Kitty. They don't even make
She's
that.
got scrunchies and shit in her hair.
They don't even make that backpack anymore because that cat was offensive to Chinese people or whatever.
Stop. They do make her. She's amazing. Hello Kitty.
But you know what I mean? It's like I wonder how many things that people who have been abducted and been in a place for a long time that they just kept with them.
Yeah.
And it became memorabilia later.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
So you're saying the whole Midwest has been captive?
Maybe that's the upside of.
Because they're like a decade behind, bro.
Right.
Like, isn't that weird? Like some states
Chicago's
are
cool.
more
Chicago's
behind than other states.
I wouldn't consider the Midwest to be behind.
I'm just fucking around.
A place like
you know
Detroit.
what I'm saying?
Yeah, a place like Detroit.
I'm not talking about Detroit, obviously. I'm not talking about
rural
a major,
Midwest.
Yeah, I'm not talking about a major city.
I mean, that's rural everybody, but rural.
I'm talking about like Missouri or something.
Missouri. I mean,
somewhere in there, somebody from like.
I mean, they're not stuck in time. They're just
Idaho.
They have like a way of life that's just counterintuitive to the way you and I feel.
Yeah, but even like their basics are like so old.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying
like
they need to be in long V-neck shirts and like skinny jeans.
No, but it's like.
But their basics are even like fucking like everyone's wearing mom jeans from 1980.
Everybody's having a good time.
What the fuck is a mom jeans?
They go really high and they're this weird shade of denim. Like they're a weird denim shade. It's like
you get someone that's a mom and you open their mouth really wide and you put them on as pants.
I had so many
Mom
other
jeans.
visuals.
Mom jeans.
My dad still has some pants from like 1998, the really, really light denim, that really light wash denim. And I'm like, nigga, you better stop wearing these pants. Like immediately.
Oh God.
He still has a O.J. Simpson "You Must Have Quit" T-shirt that him and my uncles have made.
Too legit. Too legit. Must have quit.
If it doesn't fit, you must have quit. They made these fucking shirts.
I always wonder.
He still wears it.
Do you think there's like Johnny Cochran and his team have like a pad of like 100 of those catchphrases that didn't work?
Yes.
Like they were mad.
It's like a comic.
Like they were mad men.
He throws them out in court.
Yeah,
like
too legit, not too equip. Nah.
Can you imagine if they had like open mics for lawyers fucking catchphrases? Fucking Johnny Cochran, you see him at an open mic, like, if it doesn't fit, he must not go to jail. No, that doesn't work
at all.
Oh, I'm sorry. She doesn't know about this.
No, I know. OJ killed his...
Allegedly.
wife.
No, he was acquitted for that.
Oh, I didn't know.
Legally, he was acquitted for that. He was not charged with.
Her country has.
He was not convicted.
Yeah,
for
but
that.
her country has like 300 OJ cases a year where they're like, he clearly did that shit. And it's like,
I thought he was sent to jail. By
No,
his
he
mother.
no. He went to jail decades later for trying to steal back his own shit.
memorabilia.
Oh.
His own shit.
He didn't even have a gun.
No,
he got. He just
What
let.
a doofus.
No, but that's not even the problem. Is like he tried to steal back his own shit, and the judge made it super clear that she was sentencing, like she sentenced him for the murder. Like she was basically getting back at him because he didn't get convicted for the murder.
Can we
That's
stop? I
dope.
don't even want to talk about OJ anymore. I'm serious. I don't know what this.
Can we go back to horror?
No, but we have a yes, we can. We have a fascination right now in this country with crime from the late '80s, early '90s. Have you realized that?
Yeah,
like,
Central Park 5.
the Central Park
We
5.
need to talk about it, people. People don't even know that story.
I know, man.
What happened
I watched
to
that documentary. You never saw that documentary?
No, the one Sarah Burns did? No, I haven't seen it.
It's really. I mean,
I heard
it's hard
it's really
to say.
good.
I love it.
No, it's really good.
biting.
It's informative and it's
Yeah.
Well, basically, this woman was raped and left for dead in
Jogging in Central Park at night.
Yeah, in Central Park in the late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
It was 80s was a weird time. Okay. There's a lot of crime and a lot of weird shit going on in New York.
Jogging
a lot of wealth too, though. A lot of wealth. It was weird.
Yeah.
And so she was raped and left for dead, and they picked up a bunch of teenagers who had been in the park that day, and basically made them confess to a crime they didn't commit, and they all spent
like 10, 15 years in jail.
Well, 4 of them spent about between 6 and 7 years in jail, and then one who wasn't even at the park. He was just went to with his friend to the station to be questioned. Got the most amount of time because he was the oldest, and they tried him as an adult. So he did 13 or 14 years. And then the guy who actually did it, he met him in jail, and he told him that he did it. I
thought he confessed to another inmate because he was getting all Christian and such.
Well, they said that he said that apparently when the young man who went in for the longest because he was the oldest, Corey, apparently when he was in Rikers, he was at Rikers with this dude, Matthias or whatever, and they had got into it over like the TV, and then they met each other like 10, 12 years later, and he's like, this dude's still in prison. And like he told a bunch of people that because he had been born again and he had found God, and he confessed to raping that woman, and I think he actually did talk to dude though. But then they had reopened the case. They found physical evidence. They tested the evidence, and none of their DNA was like on this woman, and this other dude's DNA was all over. And so then he
was in jail for something else.
The other guy, no, he was in jail for rapes. Well, the fucked up part is this dude had raped a few other women after that. After they had arrested these kids, they were kids basically. They were like 13, 14, 14, 15 years old. He had raped a few other women after that. And they were like, yeah, these are the ones. They did it. But then this dude is still raping people.
Yeah, then they eventually got like a settlement for like $40 million, I think, between.
Yeah, it was terrible. $41 million for 5 dudes. And they still have to pay lawyer fees. They didn't pay their lawyer fees or anything. So like they really didn't come out.
To buy a house maybe.
Yeah, but it's just not that you for staying in prison for 7 years. It's not.
No, I'm not saying it's worth it. I'm just.
I'm
saying
like the trauma.
These dudes can't even afford Netflix to see their own TV series.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I haven't watched it yet. Oh my god.
I'm not watching that. I don't like.
No, we have to watch it.
I don't like watching.
You have to support.
No, I don't like watching dramatizations of actual events. I'd rather watch documentaries.
Well, this is the only time this is the first time they've actually did it from their perspective. So obviously it's an art piece.
Yeah, but you could do the documentary from their perspective too.
Well, that Sarah Burns had already did the documentary.
I know, but they don't need. I know. I just don't like to see dramatizations of things that happen.
It's just from their perspective. You already had the documentary has a perspective.
Like I watched Spotlight. Did you like Spotlight?
No, what was that about the priest?
The priest molesting the kids.
Yeah, no, I didn't see that.
So there's a similar documentary about these priests that were molesting these deaf children for the school for the deaf. And so obviously it's not about the exact same thing, but it's in the realm of reporting on molestation and assault within the Catholic Church, right? And they interviewed the actual journalist and they interviewed the actual kids. And that to me hit me harder than Rachel McAdams going like, I can't believe I have to go interview this priest and I haven't had sleep in 2 weeks. I haven't had sleep in 2 weeks and I look like I can be on the cover of Cosmopolitan right now.
Because she can't evoke emotion. Listen,
Rachel McAdams is a great actress.
I didn't say she's not
Rachel
great.
McAdams
I'm saying
is a great
she's
actress.
not going to evoke emotion. But this is the first. That's why this movie is not called Central Park 5. They specifically didn't want to call it that. They called it When They See Us because no one's actually gotten their perspective of like what happened to them as children. So that's what it is.
Okay.
So they were heavily involved in the making of the whole thing. But I don't know. It's going to be heartbreaking. It's going to be fucking heartbreaking. But I have to watch it because I have to support them and I have to support my queen, Ava DuVernay.
John Leguizamo's in it. I'll watch it.
Oh, I love John Leguizamo.
He's the best.
See, there's a lot of great actors in this one too.
Yeah, John Leguizamo is like he's one of the guys that like when people say who are your comedic influences.
It's that guy.
And then
another white Latino.
Yeah, and then people,
I'm sorry.
I don't have many Latinos to look up to that are non-Mexican.
Why? Because they're so short.
Yeah, I can't see.
He can't look up to him. I'm sorry.
Gotcha.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Don't touch me.
Go ahead.
Don't touch me after that.
I love you.
Don't touch me after
I
that.
love
But like
you.
John Leguizamo's one-man shows growing up were so like amazing.
They're great.
And I tell people that, and they're like, John Leguizamo? And I tell, oh, he acted in this. Like, that guy's a stand-up. It's like, he's a one-man show artist. He's absolutely phenomenal.
He's a funny, like, performer.
Yeah, well, because the thing is, like, growing up, like, Mexicans and Cubans are both Latin people.
Right.
But culturally, like,
It's
the
still
humor doesn't always translate because it's very, like, I can laugh at the same stuff a Haitian guy laughs at before I laugh with a Mexican dude, because
It's
we both
different.
have like it's Caribbean as
Versus
opposed
the
to
land.
versus the land. Yeah, exactly.
The land guys.
Yeah, the land
Okay.
people.
What's up, or?
How you doing? I was thinking about my story.
Oh, what's your story, baby?
Well, I didn't know what story to tell, and then we start talking about whores and whorism and
Ooh,
Oh,
I
we gotta
love
get back to
that.
horrors eventually. I'm sorry about that.
and all that. And I was actually thinking about sharing a story that is not my personal story,
That's okay.
but it is definitely
A whole friend of yours?
I didn't live long, and it's a story from the Bible.
Oh.
It's the story from the Bible, and I wanted to make the details right, so I got it from Google. So
is that what you?
That's what I was doing, because I didn't want to get it wrong, because I know the story because my father used to tell me the story, but now that we're recording, I want to make sure it's right. I'm probably going to get some of it wrong, but
Okay.
fuck it. So the story is about Tamar. Tamar, in the Bible, was married to one of Judah. Let me do this.
Oh, she didn't do a good job.
Judah. No, I don't know how to translate it to English properly.
Okay.
Judah was the head of the tribe,
Right.
and he had 3 sons.
Mm-hmm.
And Tamar was married to one of his sons that died. So in the Bible, if the son died and the wife doesn't have any kids, the brother needs to marry her and give her kids. So Judah gives Tamar to his second son. And his second son also dies from the reason of masturbating. So he comes out.
Who wrote this?
This is in the Bible. So he comes out. He jizzes outside, and he doesn't give a kids. He doesn't give a kids, right? And the God of the Jews gets really upset because it's a sin, and he kills him. By the way, in Hebrew, his name is how you say masturbate in Hebrew. So the real punishment.
Oh, so masturbate.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. I'm sorry. You have a very goofy accent. I'm very sorry. I love you very much.
It's fine.
You remind me
It's
of
fine.
everyone I've ever loved, by the way.
I know.
I do. She really does remind me of everyone I've ever loved.
I know.
What the fuck? Okay, so he masturbates. He comes out. He doesn't give a kids. The guy of the Jews gets upset, and he kills him too. And Tamar goes to Judas. I don't know how to.
Sure.
Judah. Let's call him Judah.
Yeah, Judah.
And she says, all right, well, I still don't have kids, and you have a third son. How about you? Come on, like, I need kids. I'm not getting any younger. And Judah was like, yeah, you know what, like, he's a little young now, so maybe we'll wait a few, like, he's like 14. Just trying to fuck him. Let's give him a few years, and then you'll get married to him. So Tamar waits a few years, and another few years, and another few years, and she sees that Judah is not going to keep his promise. One day, Tamar disappears from the tribe, and nobody knows where she's at. And Jediah, he's the king of the head of the tribe. He sends people to look for her. Sends people and people and people, and nobody found her. And after like a couple months, he goes out for one of his like trade things with his camels and his sheep and shit, and he sees a whore.
I knew it. Yeah, but you that was the big moment, and you totally underperformed it. He sees a whore. That's the way.
No, so let me do it again.
Do it again, but do it like big.
One day he goes to one of his business ventures.
No, you're too high right now. You gotta go lower.
One day, Jedediah's. Don't tell me how to tell my goddamn story.
I'm trying to help you.
Wikipedia, for
I'm
God's
trying
sake.
to help
Trying
you.
navigate all these things.
So one day he's traveling through a field.
So one day he's traveling for his business trips, and all of a sudden you see a whore standing in the side of the desert. If desert had a side, and
If deserts had courtside seats, that's where he was.
and he goes to her, and
to get a little,
a
little taste.
and
Little squish. Yeah.
Oh,
and he says,
Sorry.
sweaty. It's the
he
desert.
said, "I don't have any money on me." Weird, right?
Trifling.
Oh, so he wants it for free?
So he said, "I don't want
On
any
credit?
money on me, but I am the king. I am the head of this tribe. I'm this and that. Let us do a thing, and I give you my promise that none of it promises so far, but I give you my promise that I will send people with sheep and or whatever it is you want."
Right.
He goes like, "All right, cool. You know what? I'll do that. In the meantime, until you send your sheep, I want your cane and signature." And back in those days, the cane and the signature only he has, and it's like ID also. So he gave the whore his ID. Not a smart man. So they do what they do.
That's about par for the course for men.
First of all, he's trying to get pussy on credit. So like, what are we doing? Yeah, okay.
And what is she? 16? Why is his driver's license supposed to impress her?
Oh my God. So they do what they do, and he gives her his cane and his signature, his stamp, and he leaves. And a few days later, he sends people to look for the whore, and they all come back and they ask, and there's like nobody's seen a whore in the side of this desert. Like nobody knows about this whore. He goes to other countries and stuff like that, and nobody knows about this whore. Nobody knows. It was funny. It was like, we haven't seen a whore, but there's a guy named Greg. That's not
He's
what
like,
happened.
I'll suck your dick, man, for $5. I'll suck your dick.
They said there is no whore. I tried to fuck a ghost, baby.
Can you imagine if Bloody Mary was a whore? That's why she's so bloody.
Oh my God.
Go ahead.
Stop.
Oh, God.
So, a few months go
Great.
by, and all of a sudden, who comes back to the tribe? Isn't it Tamar? 8 months pregnant.
Oh.
And they come to the Jediah and says, Jediah, you're not going to believe this. Your bride has whored against you. And in the Bible, it's a death sentence because she's still married to one of his sons. So he said, call her to the court because he needs to send her to death and there's a trial. And he says, explain yourself. Why have you whored against me? And she goes, I have whored against you, but the father of this child is the man that has this cane and stamp. And he's looking at his own cane and stamp, and all the tribe are looking that he's the father of her child. And he says, the whore is righter than me, and he doesn't kill her. And her child is the beginning of the descendants of Jews, of the kingdom of Jews. So that's why I tell people that we're all sons of bitches. But Jesus. But
so he was the first guy that ran the media?
Was it Jesus? Jeez.
But not more than that, because first of all, she in the end of the day, she didn't accept money. But what I do say is, like, me and other Jews all owe our life to one woman who didn't take no for an answer. And she wasn't a paid whore. She just wanted to have a child.
Oh, she just wanted to fuck. She's like planting your
No, she
seed
wanted to
in
have a
me.
child. That's what she...
How else do you have a child other than to fuck?
Yeah.
What episode of Game of Thrones was that?
This is real. But I guess I don't know if I have more.
This is real. Mike, I want you to tell me about.
It's in. I don't know how do you say.
The Bible's so
Bereshit.
good.
It's the first. It's the first book of the. It's before they sold Joseph. I don't know if you know this.
I don't know. You
What
can look
do
that
you
up
think-
later. We'll
do you
throw it
think-
in the footnotes.
Do you think Jesus had a fuck that moment? Like I've always
definitely. You mean that whole chunk of time where we don't know about his life?
You see, I have a premise on stage that I tried for a little while, but it got a little weird. So I'm gonna go back to it eventually. But the premise essentially was that I think, like, what makes a man become a carpenter, who's a carpenter, die for the sins of man? Like, what makes a guy like such a chill job, and then like such a stressful job? And I think, knowing men the way I know men, I think Jesus was in love with a woman who didn't give a shit about like a well-crafted table, and he and he essentially did all this to kind of like show her like not only was he a great man, but he's the greatest man that ever existed.
Oh wow!
And like all that stuff, like putting his hands on lepers. He's like, I bet Vanessa's watching this shit.
Stop.
Of course.
Can you imagine if he's going up to heaven? He's like, I told you, bitch.
Well, that was the end of the joke. The end of the joke was that he does all this great stuff. He's like, I'm walking on water. Look at her. Hope she's watching, dumbass. And then he comes back from the dead 3 days later, and then all of his friends are there, and they're all like, oh my God, Jesus, you weren't lying. Is it really you? And he's like, yeah, it's me. Hey, did Vanessa show up by any chance? Is she here? Because and then he just like, he's so disappointed, and then he just goes, fuck.
What's your
leave this part out, you guys. Just tell them I did it for you.
Stop.
I forgot to say her fuck that moment. When she was like,
oh, you mean when
like,
she said, fuck that, I'm going to have a kid.
I'm going to have a kid.
Yeah.
Mike, tell me about you getting into stand-up.
Oh, yeah. So that would be my fuck that moment.
Yes.
So actually, I've had 2 fuck that moments that led to me doing stand-up. The first was I was in fraternity, and I got my heart broken by like this horrible girl. I hope she's doing well now. Which
she's
is
a horrible.
I hope she's doing well. I hope she's doing well now is the mature thing to say, but I hope she's doing poorly. Anyway, no, I hope she's fine.
If you're listening to this, she's
not listening.
Listen, life is hard.
But
she
if
could
you are,
be anywhere.
No, she's not listening to this. She's too busy getting dick down. No, she's not. I hope you're doing well. I saw your sister had a baby. The baby looks sweet. If she's watching.
She has nothing to do with that.
No, she's cool. We were young. But I was in like a fraternity, and I liked her a lot. And then she started like dating another dude in my fraternity, and I felt like such a fool. Like I was doing sports broadcasting at the time. I was such a lame. I was in a fraternity. I was doing sports broadcasting, and I just remember feeling so horrible about the entire situation. I started doing theater, and then so that's how I started doing theater. And then so
that's insane. First of all, you just feel so horrible.
You know what it was?
It's a way to express yourself without like.
Yeah.
Really expressing yourself.
I always wanted to, like, I didn't have a girlfriend in high school or anything like that. That was like the first girl I think I loved. I don't know if it was love to this day because I never really got an opportunity to explore it.
Probably not.
But
is it like
I mean, we dated for like a week, 6 months after that whole situation. Yeah, and then it just ended. A little bit, yeah. And so
trust me.
I wonder if it's like
I've been there.
Because I wonder if because I think I can relate to that because I had the few years. It doesn't matter. I had a breakup and I went on stage and I was trying to make all the people in the audience love me for the void of the lack of love that I got from the guy.
Yeah, well,
so
it's like it
seems like you.
Well, the Jesus bit that I was just telling you very much comes from those feelings that I've had that someone kind of brushing you off like propels you to kind of do things out of necessity. Out of necessity, out of fuck that. And then the next time it happened, I was doing theater for a few years at that point. I was like manically in love with theater. Like I read all the plays, I wrote a couple plays, I put on readings and stuff like that. I studied Shakespeare.
Oh my God, I'm falling in love with you all over again.
Yeah, fuck that. So don't
you dare high five for that.
I like it. It was good. It was a good fuck that.
It's a good fuck that.
Not to me.
So
no, it's fine. You can say it to me too. It gets me aroused.
Oh God. Keep it going.
Hey.
I don't know what's wrong with me.
Hey. Nothing's wrong with you. Fuck that. Okay.
Stop.
See? She gets the good fuck that.
Yeah.
So anyway,
right in my
stop
face.
it, John, stop. Hey, John, I hate you. Okay, let's go. So the next moment, I was doing theater and all that stuff, but I'd always secretly really wanted to do stand up. That's the one thing I always wanted to do. So I was kind of doing these things that were like adjacent. Like I studied improv. I studied Yeah, stand up was my concubine.
Secret.
So anyway, I was doing all that, and I wasn't happy doing improv, and I really wasn't happy doing theater. Like the funnest times I had when I was in Chicago were making people laugh at this bar I worked at. I was like a door guy, but I would never be by the door. I'd always be hanging out with people and making them laugh and stuff
So
like
you were
that.
terrible at your job.
No, they actually promoted me to bartender. That's how good that's how bad I was at my job, and that's how good I was at making people laugh. I didn't even know how to make drinks, and I was a bartender for like 8 months. Anyway.
Aw.
Oh yeah, it's a horrible place. So I was doing this storefront theater production of the accidental death of an anarchist. It's in like an Italian farce, and I'm in and it's like a terrible little shop. It was a great theater company. I loved everybody there, but it was like this terrible little shop. And I'm a year and a half into Chicago, and winter's there, and it's brutal. It's -7 degrees outside. Right? There's 6 people in the audience, and I had wanted to be the anarchist so bad. Because that was like he was like a cartoon character. He does a lot of cool physical stuff. And then they made me the detective, which is like the straight man of the thing. And I was like, but I'm like the only funny.
Straight man can be very funny.
I'm like the only comedian in this thing. Yeah, but the thing is that I knew instinctively. I'm like I know how to do all this wild stuff, and I didn't get to do it. So what happened was that I'm in the play for the first act, or like the first 2 scenes, and I'm downstairs by myself till after intermission for about an hour. And it's a basement, and it's bad, and it's really cold because there's no heat down there, and it's dirty. And I'm just by myself. There's, again, 6 people in the audience that night. And I'm just in this production by myself away from my family in Miami. Culturally, I felt very separated because Chicago's a very homogenous city. I love the people there very much, but there's only one type of culture there. So I felt very distant and very alone. And then at one point, this rat, because Chicago has a huge rat problem, this rat walks by me, and
he's like, what up?
And he stops, and he just looks at me, and I'm like, this rat feels bad for me. He was just looking at me like this, like that.
You look like you need some company.
No, I like that. And I swear to God, I looked at the rat, and I said, I was like tired. I was like, hey, rat, I'm going to do stand up, and I think I'm going to move to Los Angeles. If that doesn't work, I'm just going to go back to Miami and get a regular job. And the rat was like, okay. And then he kept walking.
That's crazy.
He kept walking, and so and then after that, I started doing stand up.
That's how I got you.
It trickled at first. Like it wasn't as much as it is now. Like I did like a couple open mics a week, and then I left Chicago. I went back to Miami for a few months, and I didn't really do mics while I was in Miami. And then the moment I moved to LA, I went to my first mic, and I started seeing the way that like people like are constantly doing mics.
They're hustling.
And the moment I got here, thankfully I was surrounded by a lot of really hardworking, talented comedians. They were just starting, so no one knew who they were. But I was like, everyone's gonna know who these guys are. And it turns out I was correct. A lot of people that I started with that I were like, these guys are hilarious. They're starting to get stuff, and I'm doing okay right now, so that's good. So yeah, that was my fucked up moment. And it was funny. It was funny though because I was talking to a friend of mine recently, a good friend of mine. She's 24 and she's trying to figure. Shut up. She's trying to.
You know me.
It's not all of them, okay?
Listen.
Hey.
Go ahead.
Hey.
Continue.
All right. She's 24 and she's trying to like figure out her stuff and this moment I told you about was when I was 25. So I was telling her because I could see it was weighing on her. She's like, I want to do this, and then I just don't. You could just tell there's like a mental block. And I straight up told her, and this was out of my ass, but it made sense. I was like, there's going to be a point where you can't keep running from whatever it is you want to do. And you're just going to have to do it. And then once you do it and you become like obsessed with it, and then the next thought that you have to fend off is, why did I wait so long to do this? Like a lot of stand-ups will say that. Like, I can't believe I didn't start at 18. I can't believe I didn't start at 21.
Dude, there's people who start at 14. I can't even comprehend.
Well, that's the thing. You, unless you feel like a necessity to do something, you really won't do it. Like it's a chemical thing.
I never thought I'd be a stand-up. Like I had no interest in doing stand-up.
I eventually knew that I would.
I had no interest. I kind of got into it on accident because I went to a mic to support a friend who was running a mic.
Who you were in love with and he wouldn't let you smash.
Fuck you, dude.
Gotcha.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
No, but I just saw a lot of bad comics, and I was like,
I've heard a lot of comedians say. I feel like Hannibal Buress said that. Hannibal Buress said that.
I was like, I can be funnier than these dudes.
She shot everybody that night, and is he even in there?
Yes,
no,
baby.
but legit. I saw a lot of bad comics. Literally every time.
Was there a mirror? Was there like a mirror in the
Stop.
front row?
Every time these dudes started, it was mostly dudes, but like every time they started like feeling like they were dwindling, they either went to abortion or suicide. Legit, it was like 7 dudes did this in a row, and I was like, "What the fuck? Did I miss a memo?"
Mm-hmm.
And so then I was like, "Yo, like I can be funnier than these people. Like I'm funny in regular life." So then I went up there, and it was hard. And I got a few laughs, but I was like, if I actually try at this, I could probably be good.
Yeah.
And I wanted to learn how to write jokes. So in the beginning, I thought, oh, I'm just doing stand-up to be a joke writer because I wanted to write jokes for other people. Yeah. And then I was like, fuck that. I fucking love doing this because I went to school for theater too. I'm a theater person too. And it just feels so natural. Like it felt so natural. Like it almost feels more natural than when I was doing theater. But I didn't even realize because I was in theater. I was in a theater grind. Like how I grind now for comedy, that's how I grind for theater. But I still get that theater itch. Like a few months ago. Oh, for sure.
A few months ago, I was in New York and I didn't have enough shows. Like in the week,
I really went to a play.
No. So I went to visit my brother and I just done shows in Chicago. And, I only had a few shows in the week because no one knows me in New York, so whatever.
Yeah, me neither. I haven't performed there yet.
It's cool. It's fine. It's a cool city. I like Chicago and San Francisco more. I have more fun there.
Dude, San Francisco.
They're amazing.
You can get so much time.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing. So one day I was waiting. I knew my mother was coming in the next day to visit my brother and myself, and my day would be taken up. And I was like, I got a free day. I'm not going to see my brother till 5. So what I did was I dressed up like kind of like a crazy person.
Oh, I saw this.
You saw this?
I saw this.
I saw like bandana, glasses, blue ripped pants were ripped at the crotch and stuff like that. Like old beat up Cortezes.
Oh, I know those
and
Cortezes.
a yellow Cafe Bustelo shirt.
Those are his Forrest Gump Cortezes.
And I went to Central Park. No, that's at Washington Square Park with a guitar. And I don't know how to play guitar. I had a sign that said "Need money for guitar lessons," and I just played horrible guitar for 2.5 hours in Washington Square Park. And I kept making up this story that I'm like
so funny.
I kept yelling.
If
I
I
was
would
like,
have seen that.
I kept making up.
He's a crazy person.
I'm a crazy person. I kept going like this. I'm like, okay, folks, I need money. My wife left me for a man that can play guitar. I need to learn how to play guitar, and I'm gonna get her back, and I'm gonna leave her. And it's a threefold plan. So can you please help?
He's a goddamn psychopath.
I don't know how to play this.
That's why
goddamn
we're so compatible.
guitar.
That's why we're so compatible.
And you know what's funny? Most people did not get it.
What?
I made $30 though in 2.5 hours.
That's awesome, dude.
That's great. But
listen. I went to school
$2.5
for musical theater, so I get the itch to sing a lot. Like when I see I'll go see my friends in shows and stuff.
She sings like I went to karaoke with her, and I didn't know like karaoke in Hollywood is like to America's Got Talent singing thing. Like I went and everybody was able to sing, but the way she sang home.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a part where it goes like, I shouldn't do that part. But she did it. So I was like, holy fuck.
I definitely get like I miss
sing.
singing sometimes, and I haven't figured out how to incorporate that into my comedy yet. So, but I miss singing. I miss singing more than I miss the theater.
See, I just wrote this web series that I'm starting to get money for.
That's plug because we're gonna wrap up in a little bit.
Okay.
The Jew has your.
Oh, great. Israeli money. that won't come back to that won't come back to land me in prison for 30 years.
Stop. She's fine.
No,
She's
Yeah, right.
legal.
Tell
What
me
is
about
what is
Why
the
are you
pot-
stroking the microphone
What?
as you're talking?
Because I heard that you getting.
You gotta be
Tell me
gentle
about
with it.
I
Okay.
hear
the
subconsciously
money
men
you're
respond
getting
to.
for your web
Yeah,
series.
tell me about the web series. Like as
So the money
Give
that
me
I'm
an
getting
elevator pitch.
from my web series,
oh my god, give me
I have to fight back.
that is not sanitary. I
It's a
can see your
hoish
fingers.
episode. I feel a little more hoish.
It's a little.
So I
sexy.
wrote this short a couple
Sexy.
I wrote this short a couple of
It's
years ago.
Latin.
I wrote this short a couple of years ago with she didn't write it with me, but she was in it. Galena Ravina. you
Yeah, I know
Galena Ravina?
Galena.
So I did this little short. It's like 4 minutes long. It's about a Russian woman that it's clear she's an immigrant, and she moves to the U.S. with a pillow, just a pillow. And the pillow is a magic pillow. It's my face through the hole of a pillow.
That's so funny.
But you can't
I love that.
but you can't see my extremities or anything like that.
Oh,
so you can only
good,
see
green
you can only see my
screen.
we shot around my body in the short. We're gonna figure out a better way to do it. And I was in love with this idea for like 2 years, and I just never wrote it. And then a friend of mine called me, texted me hi one night, and she was like, "Hey, I just watched this hi. This is really fucking funny." And I was like, "That's all I need." I wrote 6 episodes, and now we're
That's
getting
cool.
money
Fred.
together.
How old is she? What does she look like?
She's 30, and she's like.
What's
wrong?
going on?
Oh
Am
my
I feel
God.
like
You're
there's
the one
some
that
sort
you're
of
the one that
something.
you're the one that loves hoes. She hoes up every situation we
no,
have.
I do not.
Ooh.
That's
Wait,
why we friends.
I got a new bra. Anyway, Mike. Oh my God, we
Well,
had
good
so
luck
much
with the
fun.
show.
today.
Well, what's the name?
Yeah, what's
You-
the name and
put
how
us
do we
the re-
find it?
The name of it is Padushka. That's
love it.
It's Russian
Please
for pillow.
spell that.
Padushka.
it.
Podushka. There's only one short online right now, and it looks really bad.
It's
not.
It's okay. There's a
So
lot
you
that look
gotta
really bad.
get
Broad City
high.
looked
I
horrible at the
need
beginning.
money. I need money for this. So if you guys can give me money when I start asking for it, which I will start asking for it very, very soon.
Okay. Well,
And
you need to ask your rich friends. We're poor comics, so.
Well,
Right.
if you're gonna watch it, get
Right.
high first.
Yeah, apparently.
I'm so glad you came today, my
Me too.
Latin lover.
It's very nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you too.
Tell everyone where they can find you, where they can follow you.
I run a weekly show at Tenants of the Trees in Los Feliz.
Ooh, which I haven't been invited to do yet.
And
Me
you won't.
neither.
And you won't. So,
So
that's
rude.
8:00 every Thursday. And then I'm on Instagram at Mike the Menendez. Mike the Menendez, and I post all my shows and everything like that there. I got a few coming up. So
All
All
right.
right, guys.
You guys, thank you so much
Yeah.
for listening to Fuck That podcast.
Stay fresh, my friends.
Recorded
Stay
live
fresh.
at the Comedy Store. You can find Or at I am Ormash on Instagram. And you can follow me at Jihan.Sabir. Thank you. Bye.